Welcome on the cosmic atom. You live your life believing that your ideas, worries, doubts, and emotions betray you. But what if the true threat isn't what's inside you? It is where you position yourself. You read through your phone in the same room, go into the same building, chat to the same people, and gradually, without realizing it, your energy starts to fade. You begin to lose who you are, not because you are weak, but because some locations are. Carl Jung felt that the human mind is influenced not only by what we carry inside, but also by our surroundings. There are settings, both visible and invisible, that may gently unwind your mind. Your thinking will alter over time, even if you do not recognize it right away. Your confidence evaporates. Your spirit dims. During your tour, you will discover 7 deadly sights. Carl Jung remarked, "You must avoid escaping life, but rather protecting your mental strength within it. Because some locations don't only harm you, they transform you." But how can you even begin to detect these spots before they do damage? Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychologist, devoted his life researching the unconscious forces that influence our thoughts. He was not interested in fast fixes or surface-level remedies. He delved into the soul, the unconscious, the shadow, and the archetypes that influence human conduct without our knowledge. One of his most unsettling realizations was that the places in which we live have a profound impact on us, often more than we are aware. Think about your everyday existence. Have you ever entered a location and felt heavy, as if the air itself was crushing against your chest? Have you ever left a discussion feeling smaller, quieter, or uncertain of yourself without realizing why? It's not all about the people. Sometimes it's about the energy. A location has psychological weight. Jung felt that particular areas contain patterns, unconscious regions of emotion, trauma, and unresolved energy. And when you input those areas, they begin to rewrite you gradually and silently. He once remarked, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and be referred to as fate." This includes the unconscious effect of the settings you go through on a daily basis. This is more than simply avoiding unsafe streets and dark alleyways. The locations we're going to see are psychic landscapes, some actual, some metaphorical, and all strong. They influence how you think, feel, and whether you can maintain mental strength in the face of adversity. Let's start with the first one. You could already be standing in the echo chamber. This is the realm where every voice around you sounds like your own, where your thoughts, beliefs, worries, and shortcomings are repeatedly reflected back to you until they seem like fact. You could believe you're thinking for yourself, but are you, or are you just repeating what you've always heard? Carl Jung cautioned about the hazards of group thinking, which drowns out individual contemplation. He thought that genuine mental power came from confronting oneself rather than finding comfort in the sameness. However, the echo chamber makes confrontation practically impossible. It creates the sense of assurance while slowly depriving you of progress. Think about your social media. Feed the accounts. You keep track of the discussions you entertain. Are they challenging you? Or are they just reinforcing what you already think in the echo chamber? Difference is seen as a danger. Curiosity dies. The mind becomes stiff, and rigidity brings fragility because everything unexpected becomes fearful. Jung regarded this as a type of spiritual stasis, a place where the mind no longer expands because it is never given the opportunity to extend, and it does not have to be digital. It may be your circle of friends, a school, or even a family gathering in which only particular viewpoints are permitted. You start to feel secure there, but safe does not necessarily equal healthy. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you actually listened to anything that made you uncomfortable and stayed with it? Being correct all the time is not a sign of mental power. It's about being willing to make mistakes and learn from them. The echo chamber stifles such development. It keeps you in a loop with your own voice. And if you remain for too long, you will lose how to think in any other manner. And once you've forgotten how to think in new ways, you're exposed to the next situation. One that seems to be ambitious but really feels like sorrow. The comparative arena. This is the zone where your value is determined by how you compare to everyone else, where every look becomes a silent competition, and where someone else's accomplishment is instantly interpreted as your failure. And no matter what you do, it never seems like enough. Carl Jung reportedly stated, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the parents' unlived lives." What about the unlived lives? We compare ourselves to those we scroll by every day. In the comparison arena, there are some that aren't even genuine. You're not just observing others. You're absorbing them, their lives, histories, and highlight clips. And gradually, you start modifying your own life to fit theirs. Not because it makes you happy, but because it seems like survival. Have you ever accomplished anything you're proud of, only to feel empty because someone else did it louder, larger, and quicker? This location weakens your intellect by directing your attention outward. You become less of others rather than more of yourself. You compare your depth to their surface, your current time to their peak moments. Jung highlighted the role of the person in the process of becoming uniquely you. However, in this arena, individuation is crushed by the pressure to conform, stay up, and win a game you were never meant to play. And this is the most hazardous aspect. The more you compare, the farther you grow for what you really want. You lose sight of your core principles, inner compass, and delight. So ask yourself whether this is the life you want, including your own. Or did you borrow it from another person in the arena? Winning comparisons do not build mental strength. It is located by exiting the ring fully. Only after you walk out of the ring can you see properly. However, lucidity might fade quickly, particularly as you move on to the next location, one in which you are asked to perform rather than compete. The masked circle. This is the environment where everyone wears a version of themselves that seems acceptable, charming, and polished, where appearances take precedence over sincerity, where being authentic is unsafe, and vulnerability is a foreign language. Carl Jung often discussed the persona, the social mask we wear to conform to the expectations of others. He didn't call it evil, but he did warn that if you forget you're wearing it, you'll become it. Consider the circumstances in which you feel compelled to reduce aspects of yourself, laugh at things that aren't humorous, and agree with concepts you don't believe in. When something within you cries out to be heard, remain mute. That is the veiled circle. It might be at work, in a social group, or in a relationship where affection is conditional on who you appear to be. At first, it seems innocuous. You convince yourself it's just simpler this way. However, after time, the mask hardens. The longer you wear it, the more remote your true self gets. You stop asking who you are because it doesn't seem safe to find out. Jung thought that genuine mental power came from integration, bringing your darkness, shortcomings, and hidden facts to the light. But in this circle, everything that does not suit the vision gets driven farther into the darkness. Have you ever walked away from a bunch of people exhausted? Not because they drained you, but because you had to perform for too long while wearing the mask. It doesn't just conceal you. It separates you from others and from yourself. Here's the silent tragedy. The more you blend in, the less noticeable you become. And sometimes, the vanishing does not begin in the world. It starts at home. The house was quiet. This is when love is presumed but never expressed, where emotions are buried behind habit, talks linger on the surface, and quiet becomes the unspoken norm. To the outside world, it may seem steady, even serene, but within, there is a silent erosion, a place where emotional demands go unmet, unspoken, and finally unfulfilled. Carl Jung felt that the emotional patterns we encounter early in life serve as the basis of our psyche. If such patterns are formed in the absence of emotion, the effect is repression rather than strength, and repressed emotion does not go away. It only festers, waiting for a moment of weakness before breaking through. Have you ever found yourself unable to articulate your emotions? Where being open meant being silenced, disregarded, or misunderstood. You learn to keep it all within, to smile while you're suffering, and to cope rather than connect. Coping becomes your identity. However, coping does not heal, and quiet does not provide calm in the silent family. You grow adept at pretending everything is okay. However, behind the surface, your mind is always debating what you feel and what you're permitted to display. The discord wears you down. It's difficult to be mentally strong when you've never been emotionally safe. Jung emphasized that healing starts with expression, with turning toward your inner world rather than away from it. At this space, expression is seen as weakness. Vulnerability becomes forbidden, and the stillness on the outside gradually gives way to the silence inside. So, when was the last time you felt fully heard without raising your voice? Now, consider the inverse. Imagine being in a location that is so noisy, both inwardly and outside, that you can't even hear yourself think about going to the next place. And it's considerably more prevalent than you realize. The chaotic space. This is a constantly stimulating atmosphere. The one in which noise replaces meaning and distractions build up so high that you forget what it feels like to be still. Carl Jung famously stated, "Who looks beyond dreams? Who looks in, awakes." But how can you gaze within if you're being tugged in all directions? This space is not necessarily tangible. It might be mental or emotional. A life filled with to-do lists, responsibilities, and background noise that drowns out your inner voice. You move quickly. You reply immediately. You keep busy because slowing down seems risky. Why? Because in stillness, the truth may speak. Have you ever planned out your day with activities? Not because they were important, but because you couldn't bear to be alone with your thoughts. In a hectic environment, quiet becomes dangerous. Resting feels like sloth. Reflection seems like a waste of time. But the mind is not designed to gallop indefinitely. It requires rhythm, time to absorb, assimilate, and readjust. When that rhythm breaks, so does your clarity. And this pandemonium does more than simply deplete you. It fractures you. You become distracted, unfocused, and impatient. You begin to misinterpret movement for progress and noise for importance. John thought that significance was discovered in depth rather than speed. But the hectic environment tells you differently. It seduces you with intensity before leaving you empty. So, if the cacophony ended abruptly, would you identify the sound of your own soul? Or would it be unfamiliar, like to a stranger you once knew? That's where the next location takes root. A location deep inside you, rather than on the exterior. Possibly the most deceitful of them, the abandoned self. This is not a room you can stroll into. It is the gap produced when you cease listening to your own needs, intuition, or truth. You relinquish yourself gradually. One compromise here, one neglected sensation there. And you're left with a life that no longer represents your true self. Carl Jung felt that the unconscious included the aspects of ourselves that we rejected, suppressed, or feared. And when we forsake those pieces, they do not vanish. They may show as worry, self-sabotage, or even physical sickness. Have you ever said yes when everything you screamed no? Stayed at a place, a job, a residence. That's what this area need. Comfort over boldness, numbing over the truth. It educates you to conform so well to the demands around you that you lose sight of your inner compass. And what is the most difficult part? The majority of individuals are completely unaware that they are participating. They refer to it as being responsible. Growing up is what they call it. But this is not growth. If it has cost you your soul, Jung often discussed the process of individuation or the lifetime quest of discovering one's true identity. However, you cannot begin that trip if you mute the inner voice that guides you. So halt and ask yourself, when was the last time you really checked in? Not with the world, but with you. Are you still in there? Or have you abandoned parts of yourself in return for belonging? Because the longer you remain in the state of self-abandonment, the more difficult it is to find your way back. Even if you start returning, there's one more spot where you might be trapped, one that lives behind locked mental doors. You've never attempted to access the restricted chamber. This is the place where your history exists, the one full of repressed memories, unresolved grief, buried emotions, and things you've kept hidden because they were too heavy, ashamed, or overwhelming. Carl Jung thought that everyone had shadow. We refuse to confront the deep, unconscious portions of ourselves. But what we refuse to confront does not sit quietly in shadows. It increases. It affects our behavior and relationships, even our identities. Have you ever overreacted to anything little and then questioned where it came from? Or have you found yourself repeating habits you said you'd never do again? That is the forbidden room at work, the location you'll never visit. Yet it influences everything you do. And this is the reality. You know that everything you bury will ultimately find its way back to you. The suffering you ignore becomes the agony you pass on. Avoidance does not erase the past. It only gives it greater strength. Many individuals spend their whole lives tiptoeing around this chamber, frightened that if they open the door, they will be unable to deal with what is within. However, the longer you ignore it, the more control it has over you. The shadows you hide become the shackles you wear. Jung believed that genuine power emerges from integration, bringing those hidden elements to light, one truth at a time, not to harm you, but to heal you. So, what door have you refused to open in your own mind? More importantly, what portion of your recovery remains to be completed? Now that you've seen these 7 locations, some visible and others hidden deep inside, you may find you've been living in more than one of them. Maybe you wandered into the echo chamber, looking for your voice. Perhaps you've sat silently in the silent house, hoping to be understood. Perhaps you've walled yourself up in the forbidden chamber, believing no one would see the anguish still lingering in the corners. But here's what Carl Jung knew so well. Healing does not start with perfection. It starts with awareness. And awareness begins with identifying what was previously concealed. You do not have to leave the world to safeguard your intellect. However, you must be more deliberate about where you set it, the locations you enter, the energy you allow, and the aspects of yourself you are still reluctant to confront. Maintaining mental strength does not require having everything under control. It is about having the guts to leave. What weakens you, even if the location has grown familiar? So I ask you, which of these areas have you spent too much time in? So, what would it take for you to walk away? Please let me know in the comments. Your story might be the one that helps someone else. Finally, they realize themselves. If this connected with you, please share it. Remember that your strength is not based on your level of comfort. Your decisions shape it. Dear viewers, your support through Super Chat and membership is the only source of income that keeps this channel running. If you want me to continue uploading valuable content without delays and to stay motivated in providing you with the best wisdom, I need your help. Every contribution, big or small, makes a huge difference. Feel free to donate and support Pure Wisdom so we can keep growing together. Your generosity keeps this journey alive. If you're enjoying the content on Pure Wisdom and find value in the messages we share, I encourage you to subscribe. Based on the latest analytics, 93.9% of viewers are watching without subscribing. By subscribing, you not only stay updated with new content, but also support the channel's growth, allowing us to continue spreading wisdom for the chosen ones. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important message. Let's build this community together.